Welcome to Household Goods Town Hall meeting this morning. I'm glad you've all joined us. We have many, many people out there in the audience. Sharon and the panelists will be sharing some of the things that have occurred during the COVID limitations, both at Household Goods and in the area. I am thrilled that we have our Acton representatives here. We know Jamie Eldridge, the senator, will be joining us shortly, but right now, welcome to Dan Sena and to Tami Gouveia. If you could each wave or just say a couple short words to the audience, you'll be talking later.
Hi, everybody. This is State Rep Tami Gouveia. Really just so honored to be here with all of you this morning, and I look forward to a really informative and engaging town hall. Thank you.
Hi, Barbara. Thank you for the intro. Dan Sena, representing the towns of Acton, Boxborough, Harvard, Ayer, Shirley, and Lunenburg. Thank you. It's good to be here.
Thank you for both joining us. During the program, if the audience has questions, Mimi Rutledge, Mimi Razor, is the moderator. So send the questions to the Q&A button on your computer, and she will send them to the appropriate person at the appropriate time. So Sharon, the ball's in your court to update us on what's going on here at Household Goods, as well as the fabulous Build the Way Home capital project that is now underway. Take it.
Thanks, Barbara. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. The past 6 months has been very challenging for all of us. I think for all of the businesses in the community, people, but really especially for the most vulnerable people in our communities. Seniors on fixed incomes, people who've been homeless, women and children with domestic violence situations, and people really just struggling to make minimum wage. And even before the pandemic, there were thousands of people across Massachusetts who were living without the basic furniture and household goods. And COVID-19 is just making it worse. You know, the economic and health challenges that people are facing is just making the situation that much worse. And the need for household goods services is continuing. Household Goods is celebrating 30 years this year in 2020. We had big plans for parties and celebrations, but like many things, those aren't happening. But what is happening is that we're still responding to the needs of the community. And over this last 6 months, we've had to restructure how we do everything. We've had to figure out new ways to furnish homes for people in need and to engage volunteers in a physically distant environment. You know, for volunteers before the pandemic, we were standing shoulder to shoulder. We would have hundreds of people come in every week to help get things ready and give to clients. They would work directly with people in need, helping them choose everything they need to furnish their apartment. Our commitment to our volunteers and clients hasn't changed, but the way we do that certainly has. We now are limiting the number of volunteers that are in any one area of our building and limiting the number of people who are on site. Each volunteer also has to just fill out a COVID screening before they enter the building. And as many other places, masks are required. We've invested a lot in hand sanitizer, disinfectant spray, wipes if we can find them. So all of that is very, very different. The situation for bringing donations of household goods has also changed. Before the pandemic, on a Saturday morning, we would have 150 donors come in 3 hours on a Saturday morning. And the orange wave, as many people called it, when our 20 teen volunteers would come out in their orange t-shirts to meet all the donors, that's no longer. We now have donors scheduling appointments to come in. They stay in their car while our volunteers unload them. We're also taking all of our donations and putting them into storage containers for 3 days. And that's our way of letting everything sit so it will be sanitized before we bring it in to process it and give to clients. The changes that we had to go through for our clients have been the most dramatic. Before all of our clients could come in, we would schedule 14 families to come in at the same time, and they could sit on the furniture, they could touch it, they could look at it, they could go around the showroom and take as long as they wanted to shop. And now we've had to put all of that into an online showroom so they can pick it up, pick out their items at home or in their case manager's office, and then come up and pick up the items curbside. You know, we have always wanted to have a way for clients to be able to choose remotely. So even after the pandemic, we hope to have some sort of virtual shopping for them. So if they can't make it to Acton, but they have someone who can pick up the furniture for them, they'll be able to get the items that they need. Safety during the pandemic has been our #1 priority. So we're moving really slowly. In May, we furnished 38 homes. That's what we used to do in 3 days, and we did that in the month. And we've been slowly increasing as we can do so safely. And in August, we furnished 140 homes. And we're hoping to keep building on that so we can meet the need as best we can while being responsible to the needs of our volunteers and staff and donors and clients. In 2019, we started a capital expansion project. And we've realized throughout this time how critical it is, even more so now than it was before. And it was pretty critical before. This project will do a number of things. It will dramatically improve the traffic flow for our donors and clients. It will add additional building space so we can process items and make sure we have what our clients need on the day of their appointment. And it will also give us the ability to expand capacity by adding a second entrance. There was one silver lining of the pandemic for us, and that was that we were able to move ahead with the construction while we were closed in March. So all of the outdoor, or not all of it, but the first part of the outdoor construction where we added additional parking for storage containers, we created a loop road that goes around the building. All of that is in use every day now. And it's allowing us to have both donors and clients here at the same time, just like they're doing right now. We are really thankful to Senator Eldridge and Representative Sena and Gouveia for awarding us a $250,000 earmark in the supplemental budget. That award brought our total raise to 1.2 million of our $2 million budget. And we're really hopeful that we'll be able to raise the next and the last $800,000 in the next few months, so we can continue to maximize the number of homes we can safely furnish. So I'd really like to turn it over to Representative Sena, if you're ready, just to tell us a little bit about household goods and the earmark. And I know you've had experience referring people here, so if you could just tell us a little bit about things from your perspective.
Absolutely. Well, Sharon, thank you. I know sometimes I'm texting you to get through the website, so I appreciate all the work you guys have been doing. As you know, I think a lot of immigrants need your service. When they come from another state or another country, they rely on household goods to furnish their apartments. So I've been getting a lot of requests, and I've noticed a change on, now they have to shop online, which is, I think it's a great way. And initially I was like, how are they doing their donations? Because it's so hard now. And I'm so glad that you guys were able to be up to date with COVID and be able to, keep clients coming in. I want to say as a newly, elected state rep, I'm here to represent and serve the people. And I want to make sure that you guys are receiving, state funds and whenever we can. And I'm so glad that Senator Eldridge was able to file this in the Senate. So I'm really, really happy that we have a great delegation here in Acton. And we want to make sure that, household goods has, what they need to continue with the work. So thank you.
Great, thank you. Representative Gouveia?
Yeah, so for those who don't know, I represent half of Acton, all of Concord, Carlisle, and parts of Chelmsford as well. And I grew up in the city of Lowell, so social service agencies like household goods, I know just from my experience growing up, my experience as a single parent, how critical they are to supporting the ongoing needs of our families throughout the area. And one of the things that many people may not realize is that homelessness has actually increased in the Metro West area even before COVID. and that the time that people are spending in shelters is even longer. And it's driven in large part by our extreme wealth gap that we have in our state, particularly in the Metro West area. So household goods is providing a critical service to our families every single day. And in conversations that I have with folks like Marian Ryan, who's the district attorney for Middlesex County, what she'll oftentimes say is that, you know, it seems like on the outside that we have extreme wealth in this region, but if you go into people's homes, oftentimes they don't have furniture, or they don't have enough furniture, or they don't have a dining room table. And, you know, so it's really important that we continue to get the word out that household goods is here and is still serving people in our area. I think oftentimes in our, you know, in this region in particular, being in the greater Acton area, there is a lot of wealth. And I think there's a lot of shame, and people are not always willing to talk about when they have financial struggles. And we do know that in our area that there are, you know, anywhere between 40 and 50% of our population is actually household strapped, meaning that they're paying way more for their rent or way more for their mortgage than their income can really provide. And so it's just really important to sort of understand that larger picture of what we're really contending with here in this region, because I think so often what we see is a lot of wealth and a lot of opportunity. The other thing that, you know, we all know this, that COVID is really shining a huge spotlight on income inequality in our region and in the state at large. And that those households that are experiencing extreme economic devastation, meaning that they cannot pay for their housing, they're food insecure now, maybe in ways that they hadn't been food insecure before, or they're food insecure for the first time, and they're not able to keep up with medical bills, are those households that also have been hit hardest by COVID. And we know so much of that is driven by anti-immigrant and anti-people of color sentiment in our region and in our state. You know, we are in a very progressive, you know, area, and that's a really great thing. It provides us with a lot of opportunities to be at the forefront of a lot of particular issues, social issues. But it also means that we still have work to do, and that we're not always keeping pace with what our reputation is in terms of being a very progressive state. And so I'm really encouraged by the conversations we've been having lately around police brutality, and that I hope we'll continue to have around structural racism, because they so interlink with the great work that all of you are doing. And as I just want to end briefly with, you know, as a public health social worker, I also so much appreciate all the thought that you've put into making sure that clients can come in and shop safely, that people who are making donations, that they can do it safely, and that all of your volunteers and staff are also able to maintain their own safety and their health throughout the pandemic. So just thank you to Barbara and Sharon and Mimi for everything that you're doing.
Thank you very much, Tami. Welcome, Senator Eldridge. Sorry about that.
So sorry for the delay and technical difficulties, but thanks so much for inviting Representative Sena and Representative Gouveia and myself to speak briefly and celebrate the work of household goods and the success of the capital campaign. And as a lot of household goods folks know, I got involved with household goods before it was called household goods, just knowing Barbara and Ian and Ira Smith when they had the furniture just in their yard, and the different facilities that we went to, different churches, different barns. And so I was just so happy to get, you know, a facility that household goods, you know, purchased and improved. And I know I've been to household goods many times, whether as a volunteer, as a legislator, helping constituents. So it really makes a big difference. And it's important to emphasize that it's, you know, it's not just this region of the people are helped, but it's, I would say, most of Eastern Massachusetts, big parts of Central Massachusetts, help so many people. And so really pleased to advocate with Representative Gouveia and Representative Sena for the $250,000 earmark for what is, you know, hopefully a next stage in finishing up this capital campaign of $2 million. And Sharon, I just want to thank you and the board for reaching out to me last year and talking about your vision and how to better serve consumers through expanding household goods footprint, as well as to improve the roadway around it. And really excited to be part of it, proud to dedicate some state funds to it. And thank you so much for all you do. It's easily one of the most impressive nonprofits in the entire state, and has been recognized, nationally and at the state level. So honored to help out, and thanks so much for having me on for this discussion.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for all of your support over the years. Barb and Ira had told me that one of the very first big house cleanouts they did, that I guess they called you, and you were the first volunteer furniture mover to do the clear out, and you made all of the trips, and that was about 30 years ago. So thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Mimi Rutledge is a past president and is still on our board of directors, and she has been collecting questions via chat, email, and the Q&A. So Mimi, if you want to let us know what people are asking.
Sure, and this is a really good time for all of you that are on the participants in this to send questions through the Q&A, and we will answer them as much as we can. So Sharon, I have one question for you via email from Rob, and Rob would like to know if under normal circumstances we receive enough donations of all types to last through the winter, early spring. We'd like to know if under normal circumstances we receive enough donations of all types to last through the winter and early spring, or do we run low or dry in some areas? Given that, I'd further like to know what your best guesstimate is for this winter, early spring. Does it look like we'll have more, less, or a similar level of inventory? That's from Rob.
That's a great question. That's one of the things that we are challenged with every year, is that we want to make sure that we have enough beds and couches and tables for everybody who comes through. In a typical year, that's about 2,700 families. And so very often we might find that we need couches, but we're not a store that we can just order from our manufacturer. Well, we need 100 couches. We might need 100 couches, but we might get 200 dressers. And that's why I'm building these additional areas to store storage containers and tractor trailers. It helps us take advantage of donations when they're made available to us. So if a hotel is remodeling or a dorm is remodeling and they have dressers, we might not need the dressers today, but we know that we're going to need the dressers in 3 months or 4 months. And those dressers are only available when they are. So we try to take donations whenever they're possible. And then we can do it. Last year, we were fortunate to receive a grant from Life Science Cares to purchase mattresses to help us fill in the gap. One of the things that most people need who come here are beds, and we want to make sure that we have enough beds for everybody who comes. What was the second part of that question, Mimi?
The second part was just, does it look like, would you expect that you'll have more or less or a similar level of inventory this winter and early spring?
This year is particularly challenging because of our limited ability to take donations. We're taking about a third of the donations that we typically do, and we're finding that a lot of people who are able to come during the times have smaller items, which is great. So we have, we're getting a lot of pots and pans and dishes, glasses, baking items, towel sheets, which we always need, but we're seeing that we're not getting as much furniture as usual. So we're trying to brainstorm ways to up some of the furniture, specifically couches and kitchen chair sets.
Mm-hmm. That's great, thank you. I have another question here as to when do you expect to be able to begin taking more donations by appointment or having more open days?
We hear that question a lot. We know that we're limited to take donations. Our limitations to take donations are based on a couple of things. One is we need to make sure we have enough space to quarantine all the furniture for 3 days, but also the amount of labor involved in moving everything into a storage container and then having to move it again to come back into the building is really difficult. Getting volunteers who can move that much furniture has always been a struggle for us. And now we need to have twice as many furniture movers as we usually do. So, you know, we hope to be able to increase donations as we can improve and learn and try to make our process a little bit more efficient.
Mm-hmm. Terrific. So a question for Sharon or for any of the other panelists who might know, the housing market is slowing down dramatically. And what effect do you think that will have on household goods?
That's an interesting question. People moving and buying houses, that type of.
Yeah, I think so. I think actually, this is actually, I'm sorry, I mistook it. It's actually directed to Tami Gouveia.
Well, I raised the question because I know that the housing market is slowing down dramatically. Baby boomers and other folks who at this point normally in their lives would be moving on, because of COVID, they're not moving on, and they're not selling their houses, they're not downsizing. We do know that they're, just in speaking to different real estate agents, that there is a big influx of people trying to leave the city and come into the suburbs. But again, there's just like, if you're watching the housing market, you can see that it's pretty much slowed down dramatically. And I think a lot of that also has to do with COVID in a lot of ways. And so just really curious if you've seen any or heard anything of how this might be impacting your supply, like particularly around furniture is what I'm thinking of.
That's a really good point. If people aren't downsizing and moving, that's where we get a large amount of furniture. So I can see that would totally impact people bringing donations to us. If they're staying put, then they have no need to clean out and find homes for their furniture that they don't need any longer. So that's an interesting point. Thank you.
Yeah, no, of course.
Although I can also vouch for the reality that many young people are moving back home with all of their earthly belongings, and their parents will be looking forward to parting with them. So we're actually getting, we said would be half an hour. We can go a little bit over. Is there anything else that any of the panelists would like to add to their comments or ask of any other panelist, or is there anything else we want to cover at this point?
I'm just curious to know how many clients did you guys serve last year? I don't know if you have that number now. And the year before that, I was just curious to know if your client list has been increasing over the years or has remained the same. And what is the region that you guys, serve? I know any referrals usually is acceptable, but it's just curiosity if there was a certain region that you guys like to focus on. It's really open to anybody.
So we're open to anybody who's referred by a Massachusetts-based organization. We used to say people had to live in Massachusetts, but we find that some people, especially who are moving out of shelters, sometimes they're being housed in Rhode Island or Southern New Hampshire. So as long as they're referred by a Massachusetts-based agency, we'll accept a referral from them. Last year, we had quite a few people coming from as far as Pittsfield. So we're really open to help anybody who needs help. Last year, we furnished 2,700 homes, which was, we've been slowly going up. One of the things that limits us are the number of client spots that we have. Once we finish the construction project, we have the ability to add days where we can have more clients come. But until we do that, we're limited pretty much by the hours that we're open. Mimi, I see a few more questions.
Yeah, there's a few more questions now. That's great. So Ann Anderson is asking, telling us that household goods used to receive a large percentage of donations from the Boston College spring move out. How has COVID-19 affected that?
So this 2020 was supposed to be our 10th anniversary of the Boston College student move out. We had plans for big parties and it was going to be great. And unfortunately, because the students had to leave so quickly, we weren't able to do that. They did save though some of the most precious items that we get from Boston College, microwaves and lamps, fans. And so we were able to fill a truck in, I think it was June, to take some of the things that they had saved. But definitely that was a huge loss to us because we would normally get 6,000 items during those 10 days.
Okay, and also another question is from Nancy Hodgman. Have you changed your guidelines about the condition of items donated over the years? In other words, have you gotten more particular about condition or less?
That's a great question. I think our guidelines have always been we don't take things that are ripped, stained, torn. We want things to be in good condition that will last. for our clients. I think that there is definitely some items that everybody would agree on that would say, nope, we're not going to take that. And items that we look at and everybody would say, oh, that's beautiful, we're taking it. And I think there's a number of items in the middle where some people would say that it's fine and some people would say it's not. And so we've really been trying to be more objective about it, and to really look at items and say, well, this has cap scratches on it, we can't accept it. Or somebody spilled coffee on it, no, we can't just flip the cushion over. So I think over the years, I think we're less likely to try to figure out how we can make it functional with staining and tears, and to really be moving towards giving people things that we would be proud to give them and they would be proud to accept.
That's terrific. So one last question here is, how has the COVID-19 crisis affected your fundraising, or what's the financial impact been for household goods?
That's a great question. The honest answer about that is we don't know yet. 70% of our funding comes from individuals in the community, and we get about 60% of our funding in the last quarter of the year. So we really won't know the implications of funding until January. You know, we do expect that with all of the economic challenges that are happening, we do expect that our funding will be impacted. And we really do hope that we'll be able to, you know, make up some of the loss in individual donations by perhaps bringing on some new donors or applying to new grant funders that we haven't in the past. But our need for funds remains as strong as ever.
That's an important message, yes. Okay, well, we're a little bit over. Just want to throw it back out there to the panelists. Anybody have any last questions? Or I'd just really like to thank you all so much. We'd all like to thank you from the bottom of our hearts, everyone that's joined us today, and especially to Senator Eldridge and Representatives Gouveia and Sena. It's very special to have you with us, and your support is enormously important to us, so we appreciate that. Before we go, we just want to mention that this is actually our 30th year in operation, and we can't celebrate with a big event, but we're having a couple of small events that will be fun and interesting to participate in. The first one is a trivia challenge, trivia game, hosted by my husband, who was a former Jeopardy champ, so he'll come up with some good questions, and that's going to be on September 26th. That's a Saturday night. And the second is a clutter clarity event where Laura Moore, who's an unbelievably wonderful local clutter expert, will give a interesting and informative discussion on ways to approach clutter during COVID. So you can find information about all of that on our website, which is householdgoods.org. And Sharon, anything else from you?
No, I just like to thank everybody for joining us today. And thank you all for your support.
Thanks again, and I hope everyone has a great day.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.